This video is sponsored by Investing.com. When you look at futuristic electric SUVs like the BMW iX, the mainstream media loves to tell you that Americans designed the software, Asia built digital screens, and Europe just put the wheels on. But that narrative is completely wrong, because if you look at what actually makes this 2.5-ton beast move down the highway, you find a secret multi-billion euro European tech stronghold that quietly controls quite a large piece of the entire EV revolution. Think about what happens when you smash the accelerator. Special chips rapidly control how much electricity flows from the battery to the motor, thousands of times every second. These chips are called power semiconductors, the silicon muscles they're often called. And without them, modern electric cars simply would not work. And if you look strictly at the power semiconductors used in automotive applications, European giants combined command around a third of the entire global market. They even export a massive amount of this silicon directly to Asia and China for their own electric cars. And power chips don't just power EVs like the BMW iX alone. They also power the rest of our high-tech future, from green energy grids, wind turbines, to bullet trains and power-hungry AI data centers. If we look at the entire global power semiconductor market, 17.4% is controlled by just one company, Infineon. They are more than double the size of their closest competitor, onsemi, in the USA. And right behind them is another European power player based in Switzerland, STMicroelectronics. So why do the headlines constantly say that Europe is falling behind in the global chip race? Why are companies like Nvidia and TSMC always getting all of the front pages while European alternatives are basically barely ever mentioned? Well, that's because the semiconductor market is quite a lot bigger than just the power chip family. There are actually three other major families that make the digital world turn, and Europe's grip on them looks very different. First, you have memory semiconductors. They don't think really. They're just there to store information. This multi-billion-dollar space is completely locked down by South Korea, with giants like Samsung and SK Hynix alongside Micron in the US. When it comes to manufacturing mainstream memory, Europe's foothold is, I have to be honest here, basically non-existent. Next though, there's the family of analog and sensors, which are senses of the machine. These chips translate the messy real world into digital code. And Europe is actually a massive player here. While American titans like Texas Instruments and Analog Devices lead the total global consumer tech space, European companies like Infineon, NXP, and STMicroelectronics lock down a massive 18% of the total global analog market, specifically dominating the industrial and automotive sectors. Then there's also Bosch, a German giant that single-handedly controls nearly a quarter of the global automotive sensor chip market. They're the ones actually building the tiny microchips that trigger your airbags and slam on the brakes during an accident. But because sensors are practical and cheap, costing just a few dollars each, they just don't really make the sexy tech headlines that some of the other chips do. Which brings us to the big one. Logic semiconductors, the ones that everyone knows. Think of these as the brains. They run complex software, process artificial intelligence, and handle hyper-advanced calculations. Inside your car, the logic chip is the central computer running the entire automated self-driving system, instantly calculating your speed, for example, your steering, your lane position, all at the very same time. And this is the same glamorous, ultra-expensive technology that basically operates your phone or fuels the global AI boom. This space is completely dominated by American designers like Nvidia, Apple, AMD, and Qualcomm. As when it comes to design and manufacturing, Europe simply does not have any major players. And then, of course, there's Taiwan's TSMC. And while it doesn't design the chips themselves, it manufactures many of the world's most advanced processors. And its reach extends far beyond just the logic chips, making it one of the most important manufacturers across the entire semiconductor industry. So, that is the overview of chip design and manufacturing. And as you can see, Europe is very much in this race. And I haven't even talked about Europe's ultimate trump card yet. Europe's most valuable company, ASML. Not to mention other European powerhouses like Zeiss, Trumpf, and imec. Together, they hold an absolute monopoly on a critical part of the global chip creation supply chain. But before we look at these in just a bit more detail, let's have a look at the actual companies we discussed so far. Because personally, I am so bullish when it comes to Europe's semiconductor sector. And I use and highly recommend InvestingPro from investing.com, the world's leading financial website used by investors globally to research and analyze the markets. For example, if we have a look at the tool right here, you can see I've created quite a few watch lists, and my favorite one right now, of course, is the European semiconductor industry, showing all the European firms that are part of the supply chain. For example, we have BASF, we've got ASML, which we talked about earlier, Infineon, and so on. And what I really like here is this fair value label, which shows if a company is overvalued or undervalued. So for example, right here, we got AMS, which is currently undervalued with a 29% upside. And when we click on it, we get a proper overview of why it's got this upside. For example, you got financial health, but most importantly, there's financial models. And if you are like me and you like the headlines and want to see what's going on, you also have a company profile right here. And another great feature very quickly is ideas right here. And you can see Warren Buffett's portfolio or Bill Gates' portfolio. And you can just copy it over like this. Yes, copy it over. And bam, you've got their entire portfolio right here, and you can see the individual stocks that they're buying, and you can see here there's also some potential upside within this portfolio. So it's a great tool, and they actually have a flash sale at the moment with 55% off. And with my exclusive code eumadesimple, or by clicking on the link below, you can stack that with an additional 15% off on top of the 55%. And this offer is for a very limited time only a couple of days. So really, go and check out the link in the description or in the pinned comment below. Now, back to the video. And as I said before the sponsor, Europe holds a near monopoly on a critical part of the chip supply chain. Now, I know that might sound very surprising, so let's actually have a look where Europe fits into all of this. And for that, we need to look at a simplified value chain for high-tech logic chips. You know, the hyper-advanced processors that, power your phone. Sadly, I still have an iPhone, so let me know if there's a European variant that you can recommend. Anyway, the world-class chip design for this iPhone happens almost entirely in the United States. This is where Apple designs the A-series chip that powers the iPhone, and Qualcomm designs the brains behind many flagship Android phones. Then, when it actually comes to manufacturing these chips, there's one dominant player in the world, TSMC in Taiwan. But there's a crucial step people often miss. To manufacture these chips, TSMC needs incredibly advanced machines that can print billions of tiny transistors onto a piece of silicon, literally no bigger than your fingernail. And those machines come from Europe. And the most important company in the world is ASML in the Netherlands. In fact, ASML is the only company in the world that can build the machines needed to make the most advanced smartphone chips. And ASML does not work alone. Germany's Zeiss makes the ultra-precise mirrors inside those machines. Germany's Trumpf builds the powerful lasers that help create the special light used in the chip-making process. And Belgium's imec helps develop the next generation of chip technology years before it reaches us, the consumers. But that's still not the whole story. You also need the raw materials. Before TSMC can print the chip, it needs a perfectly pure silicon wafer. That's basically the disk that acts as the foundation of the chip. And companies like Germany's Siltronic help produce these wafers. And then you need highly specialized chemicals to clean, coat, and shape the chip during manufacturing. And European companies such as BASF and Merck supply many of these materials. So, when you actually do buy an iPhone, you're actually holding the result of a global supply chain. Without American designs, there's nothing to build. Without Taiwan, there's no chips to produce. And without Europe's technology and equipment, the world's advanced chip industry simply would not function the way it does today. So, what this video has hopefully shown you is that Europe isn't losing the chip race. In fact, Europe already completely dominates some of the most critical parts of it. As we've seen, Europe has two superpowers. First, it is a global leader in power semiconductors, the chips that control electricity in everything from electric vehicles to factories and to power grids. Second, Europe is home to the companies that build the machines needed to manufacture the world's most advanced chips. Some argue that the problem is that for years, European politicians have just focused on the wrong goal. The original plan was to compete directly with Taiwan in advanced chip manufacturing. But let's be very realistic here. Taiwan spent decades building that advantage. Replicating it would cost hundreds of billions of euros and requires expertise Europe simply does not have today. So Europe is actually now changing course, which I think could be a very good thing. Instead of trying to copy Taiwan, it is investing in areas where it already leads: chip-making equipment, power semiconductors, and cutting-edge research hubs like imec. For example, the EU is backing a €5 billion silicon carbide campus in Italy. Germany is funding specialized automotive chip factories, and the Czech Republic is investing €1.6 billion in next-generation power semiconductor production. In other words, the goal is to make the world 100% dependent on European tech in certain steps of the value chain. And to me, that strategy makes sense. Europe may never design the flashy AI chips powering ChatGPT or the cutting-edge processors hidden inside an iPhone. But while the tech world is obsessed with the brains of the digital economy, it's easy to forget about the muscle. Electric vehicles need power chips to drive. Charging stations need power chips to charge them. And factories need power chips to run. And as our world becomes more electric, automated, and connected, demand for these chips will keep on growing. So, it's a good thing that we have somewhat of a monopoly here. And one last thing before you go. If today's video made you want to actually act on this and start building a stronger European portfolio, especially with all of these amazing semiconductor companies, InvestingPro is genuinely where I'd start. You can find undervalued European stocks, run fair value checks, and filter by country or sector in just a few clicks. The sale is only for a very limited time. 55% off plus an extra 15% with my code eumadesimple. The link is in the description below. Thank you, as always, to our members who keep this channel going, and see all of you in the next video.